It's working. It's working. Yeah, it does lag a little, but it's okay because.
Yeah.
Afternoon.
That sounds like a lot. Probably plan this better.
It's right here in the middle. How's this? Is the light pretty good?
It's still kind of weird.
I feel like I have one remarkably similar, if not the same.
Yeah, that
it's
row
like
here
yours from juniors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting my mark here. How's it? I am a radical.
I'm gonna fix it in post edit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what my ex is. I thought so. Because I was like, I just said, you know, happy birthday. It's his birthday today, and I said, happy birthday because I know that nothing will piss him off more. Yeah. So I mean, it's really, you know, thank you. You probably got some years and giants by the food, and I ordered it. And now I just haven't changed it back. Maybe someday. Someday,
I'd never been on the search like I did before, and I wanted like 2 seconds to decide. So I'm trying to do the right
Welcome to New Brunswick Libraries. I'm Dee Magnoni. I'm the director of New Brunswick Libraries. I'm very happy to be here tonight introducing the Colloquium and welcoming you to Rutgers and the College Avenue campus. I am here to introduce Lee Radford. I'm going to let it have a sip of water. I'll tell you, you're in the Alexander Library on the College Avenue campus. In New Brunswick, there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 campuses with 7-ish libraries. It depends on how you count. It's fun to not be exactly sure how many libraries you're in charge of. And that's another conversation. But it's a wonderful place, super space that we're in this evening. We have updated AV and carpet and wood. Actually, this is the first event I've been in since I renovated this room, so I'm excited. Spaces don't always get renovated, but you must celebrate when they do. So I am here to introduce Marie. And Marie Radford is a professor in the LIS Department of SCI, the School of Communications and Information, and she's also the faculty advisor of Beta Phi U. We have quite the collaboration of partners on this event tonight. New Brunswick Library is sponsoring the reception, but the actual event, Marie will discuss Beta Phi U is amongst the partners. So Marie, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is an annual event. Our Beta Phi U Honor Society, we are the Omicron chapter. It's part of a national honor society that recognizes excellence in library and information science students. So every year, once a year, we have a fall colloquium. And we bring in a speaker who we think is going to be not only the embodiment of all of what Beta Phi U strives to do, leadership, excellence, compassion, service. Service is really important to Beta Phi U. I want to start by introducing our Beta Phi U officers. So if you would stand up. Beta Phi U officer. Like, am I an officer? Barbara Burton in the front here, and David Klein is very new to Beta Phi U. And I think we also have some other Beta Phi U members in the audience. Raise your hand, Beta Phi U members. I see you out there. And for the library school students, and I know we also have students who are online with us tonight, in order to be invited into Beta Phi U, you have to be among the top 25% of your class. So if we graduate 100 students, we can only offer membership to 25 of them based on your GPA and also recommendations from the faculty regarding your excellence, research, scholarship, and service. These are the values of Beta Phi U. We are also partnering, as Dee said, we have other partners tonight. We have the Rutgers Alumni Association, and I want to the members of the executive board. I know Steph McKinnish is here tonight, and Katrina, wow, is also here tonight. So the other members of the Alumni Association, I also serve on that board. We are also partially sponsored by the Sky Department of Library and Information Science, and we have Ross Todd here, who is our current department chair, who graciously also helps us sponsor this event. And we're sponsored by the New Jersey Center for the Book. And I would also like to thank Dee and the New Brunswick Libraries for sponsoring our little community building activity of having wine and cheese, right? Sorry people who are online, but you can, of course, at home have your hot chocolate or your wine and cheese, and you can also get to be in your pajamas, which is kind of a perk. So tonight, we welcome Deborah Blackwell. Deborah Blackwell is a member of the Ocean County, New Jersey's library management team and currently serves as the library training officer. She believes in the power of the public library to serve as a vital resource and be an equalizer for all community members. Deborah is a licensed counselor and is passionate about living life from the inside out loud. I will also share that Deborah and I met on a panel. We were both kind of talking about this topic of how to disagree without being disagreeable. And Deborah was coming at it from her perspective. She is a PhD student, as well as being a member of the Ocean. This is always so much fun when you're getting a PhD and working full time, as some of us know, Connie knows, and others of us know, Stephanie also knows, and myself. But so the challenge there is to thinking about when we disagree, when we have polar opposites, when we're in a climate right now of a country that seems to be divided along and lining up and kind of seems to be getting worse these days, and red, blue, purple sort of disappearing, conservative and so forth. And so what Deborah is going to talk to you tonight about is nurturing the public voice, the library's role in community transformation. Thank you, Deborah.
Well, I am delighted to be here with you on tonight. Thank you to all of the sponsors, sincerely. In the world in which we live today, in organizations, you can tell how I'm wired, right? Partnerships are important, whether they're internal or surrounding the community. So yes, we're going to talk about this notion of having conversations, discussions, dialogues when we're not happy, when we don't believe we've been treated fairly. I would say right about now in America, we've lost something. Would you agree? What have we lost?
Civility.
I remember, and Marie will support this as I'm recalling this to memory, as I challenged her or asked her to reframe that word about civility. Who gets to define civility? What does it look like? What is he or she wearing? When we say civility, we get a picture. Who defines that? Historically, when we talk about civil, who defines that? Who defines that? Come on, guys. We will be here a long time if we do not participate.
White males.
White people in general.
We're talking about here in America. Who defines that? Civility. When we get a little passionate, when we come across the board, we're not civil. We disengage because we're saying to one another, if you desire to speak to me, as was told to one of my colleagues, this is the way you need to act. So when one appears to be real passionate, I'm in a nice posture, aren't I now? Is that Lori? Name? Laura. I'm in a nice posture, aren't I now? I look professional, don't I? I look good. I got my hair done. You can't tell, but I got my nails done. And I thought about a pedicure. Hello, digital learners. Okay, that's important that we want you to know that we know you're there. But my posture is not always this way. And in a professional atmosphere, when I might wear blue jeans, some heels, maybe a blazer, and we're sitting in the management team meeting, and I've disagreed with a statement, I might become very physically engaged. And what might that physicality look like? there might be an expression, a scowl, that says, that's mighty stupid. What were you thinking about? But before we go there, I'm going to give you a snapshot of Deborah. 20, 30 or so years ago, 30 years ago. Rural, Barnegat, New Jersey, Bayside, mosquitoes, gnats, the pine barrens, are you with me? Wetlands, marsh, daddy's girl, daddy died. We owned a family business. I was going to school, doing my thing. That's what daddy would have me do. But now my compass is thrown off center. We sold the family business, and I dropped out of school. Daddy wouldn't have liked that. But my heart wasn't in it, or any other part of me, as I sought to recover. Where do you suppose I went? The library. Because that local library was the smallest of the branches in the 21 branch system of the Ocean County Library, but had the coolest librarian. German, tall, lean, Caucasian. She had tattoos when they were cool. She had a crew cut when it wasn't fashionable. And she was controversial. She had displays that spoke about people other than those that lived in Ocean County. Are you with me? Ocean County. You don't see many people that look like me. Even now, but we're getting there. But then, most of the people, Barbara, were family. Hey, that's my cousin. And I'm telling a true story. Fast forward. Started to put my toe back in the water. Move on, Deborah. Go back to school. I was taking a literary class. And I'm a wise woman. Why buy those textbooks? It's literature class. They were talking about the classics. I know where I can go. For free. The library. The public library. Fast forward. 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. A year goes by. I get a phone call. It's the librarian. Deborah, I hope you don't mind that I'm calling you at home, but I'm wondering, do you know someone that would like a part-time job? I'm looking at the phone. Somebody would like a part-time job. Me! I went in, did the paperwork. Part-time, smallest library. Did I mention, or did they mention I'm now in executive management? 30 years later, part-time library. Afraid of my shadow. That librarian saw something in Deborah. She had no opinion. After the lights went out, Jean Boger and I would stand on the sidewalk in rural Barnegat, New Jersey, and dialogue, debate, go at it. She opened up a worldview that was just not little Barnegat, New Jersey. Magazines, literature, music, theater. So when I say that I believe that the public library is for the community, it's up close and personal and real to me. The people that came into our communities saw displays from museums, We had authors. They told stories from places they've been in rural Barnegat, New Jersey. Because Jean Bogren dared to be controversial. And I'm talking about this subject right now. Nurturing the public voice. What does nurturing mean? I told you we'd be here a long time ago. What does it mean? It's not a wrong answer. We're in school. Thank you. Get in there. Go ahead.
It's like a form of caring.
Dan, did you hear him? What did he say? Do you agree?
That sounds good to me.
Add on. You knew that was coming.
Yeah, supporting.
Nurturing, supporting. Anyone else? Get in it.
Giving a safe place to grow.
She's been to college. Giving a safe place to grow. Public library. And the work of a librarian. You've heard what I've been hearing. The role of the librarian is changing. We're neutral. We're not advocates. We're certainly not activists. We don't do that. We fight for that voice of intellectual freedom, but we don't have an opinion about that. Is that what you've been told? Let's check the historical record. What does the historical record say about the American Library Association? Let's find out. Since the founding of the American Public Library Movement by Samuel Swett Green in 1876, that's right, libraries have been considered safe spaces for civic engagement and public discourse. These public spaces, this is what Samuel said, continue to serve as a center for debate, the exercise of the rights of citizens, and a place where people of diverse backgrounds can meet as a community. So we see that this notion about the public library free, non-judgmental, and safe, it's not new. 1876, it's embedded in ALA's history. The public libraries were open evenings, weekends, were centrally located in most cases, were open to all ages, all socioeconomic backgrounds, political and sexual orientations, and of all tastes and interests, right? It is true, truly a public space, an ideal setting for diverse opinions and political and social issues to emerge. By definition of what a public library's role is, that there are certain things that will happen within that space, an exchange of diverse views, thoughts, experiences. Fast forward. The American Library Association was founded in 1876, hang with me, with the goal of providing leadership for the development, promotion, and improvement of the library and information services, and the profession for leadership for all. The professional ethics and the values of ALA was formed early on in the institution, and is enshrined in the Code of Ethics of the American Library Association, adopted in 1930, and I'm not going to read that. It was amended in 2008. From the very beginning, though, ALA touted neutrality. Is that true? As a hallmark of the profession. It's seen as a virtue for librarians that we pride ourselves on not being guided by our personal viewpoints, but rather make available to library users resources that cover a broad range of perspectives and ideas and intellectual freedom and all that wonderful information. Let's dig a little deeper. Are you willing to hang on a little bit more for some history?
Yes.
So let's see, even back then, where this notion of neutrality regarding ALA and its ethics, where it was. There's been a struggle. The struggle isn't new about views and experiences. Slavery, segregation, exclusion. Fast forward. 13th Amendment, 14th Amendment. Are you with me? 1936, ALA conference. And guess what? This is fabulous because Black librarians are invited to the conference. Yay. ALA. Only one problem. What's the problem? Segregation. So, you can come, but you can't come to the hotel. And so ALA, because they were choosing to follow the then social stream of our society, culture, the law, they said, we remain neutral. Did we know that? ALA, we remain neutral. So that meant Black librarians, even though you were invited to the conference, it's not accessible to you. Goods, opportunities, and services. Goods, opportunities, and services they went without at that conference. But hold on. There were individuals, librarians, white librarians, and popular in polite society, we say Caucasian, that said, there's something wrong here. Unacceptable. In addition to the Black librarians that had come, they joined forces, librarians, and they said to the then executive board, unacceptable. And the executive board decided, we agree. Fast forward. They adopted a statement that said, every other conference forward during that time period, we would not go to a city or a facility that did not allow all of our membership to attend. Activists, librarians, taking on the social issues of the day. 1937. Do I need to go back to this? Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. So this notion of librarians using their voice, using our power, if you will, our role to be activists, to speak on behalf of someone else, to create space of inclusion and access, it's not new. So why we here in the 21st century are grappling around our role and our function, the founders, the originators of ALA said, get in there, roll up your dues. Let's get it done. There's something egregious happening. What are we going to do about it? Fast forward. The world didn't change. There were more conferences. There were still challenges. Another activist librarian rose up and challenged ALA to really live out experientially its ethics for Black librarians. And again, ALA rose to the challenge. Fast forward. The organization continues to transform itself. How? By having an Office of Diversity, Literacy, and Outreach Services. So, could it be that for the potential leaders and those that are already a member of this National Honor Society, that you have come to the profession for such a time as this? For such a time to put feet and energy and courage around what we choose to do in the 21st century. As we walk out the door with our diploma as librarians and information professionals. Could it be? Now, I have a few slides of PowerPoint here. Are you with me?
Yes.
Citizens are inattentive and uninformed. You agree?
Yes.
Thanks.
Not all, some.
I heard no, not all, some. Do you agree that there's a lack of confidence in major institutions?
Yes.
And what might those institutions be that we are seeing a lack of confidence in?
Presidency.
Who?
Presidency.
Congress.
Congress,
Supreme
government,
Court.
Supreme Court.
Higher education.
Yeah.
Schools.
Those individuals that know better, right? They're the leaders. They're the best of the best, we've been told. Caring, cultivating, what did you say, Laura? Nurturing. A safe place to grow, to develop. Was that the essence of what you said? So what do we do? I'm going to tell you what we do. I'm going to share with you what some courageous librarians have decided to do with their library, with their voice, and how they're intersecting with the community. Ferguson, we all know about it. As a pillar in the community. What happened? Now, I can tell you, but what happened? Because, see, we said, I don't agree that we're uninformed. I believe we are informed. So since we're informed, you should be able to tell me about this.
The library stayed open during all the unrest.
It was more than unrest.
And it was a safe haven.
Public library. A safe haven. Public library. Books, DVDs, magazines, computers. The librarian said, the people need us. We will be, schools closed, governmental offices closed, police were in riot gear, lives were being taken. But a public library dared to say, not on my watch. And in my reading, the community members that came in said to the librarians, thank you. Thank you for being here. In that moment, the Ferguson Library was able to provide them with accurate information. In that moment, The Ferguson Library was not only a haven for the citizens, but for the peace officers, black and white. Isn't that a notion? And it happened at a public library because they made a decision to be an answer to the problem in their community. They didn't remain neutral, or did they? We're going somewhere, ladies and gents. I promise you we're going somewhere. Filling in the gaps. Let's go to the Midwest. Oregon. Nope, Colorado. This library. Filling in the gaps. Poor. Predominantly white. Good people. Salt of the earth in my research. They're just challenged. Financially. So the public library sends some of their librarians to the school to help in educating the children. They bring the children to the library for discussion groups. They're opening their view on the world, helping them to understand. Little people having conversations about Ferguson. What's wrong? What happened? Why? And the public librarians gave them information, engaged them in discussion. Neutral? We're still thinking. Let's keep moving forward. We're going to talk about that voice because we said, and I agree, that some of our major institutions, we've lost confidence. Baltimore, Enoch Pratt Free Library. Baltimore, awesome city, but a city with major tension. Death, because some of the community has experienced injustice. Now, there are many slides that I could have pulled, not just around race. We could go to Florida. We could go to Paris. But we're talking about the institution of a public library and the role and the function of the librarian and the staff. And this notion around how we intersect with our community around the issues of the day. Is it our role, our responsibility? Narcan. Some librarians have taken the training and they administer Narcan. Do we know what that is?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about that. I heard yes over here. Help her out, someone over here.
Cataracts, heroin, opiates.
Opiates. So we have an opiate epidemic in New Jersey. Now we're getting ready to get into the white water. Are you ready to rock? Because we want to talk about the subjects of the day. And the subjects of the day are unpleasant. There's injustice that has gone on. GLBT, Muslim, females, African Americans, take a knee, don't take a knee. Should she have said to that umpire, Where do we have these conversations? So here we are. How do we have the conversations? The conversations are happening. And what is the role of the public library regarding those conversations? Hang with me. Who's that over there? I can't see it. I want to say Alice, but I can't.
Alex.
Alex. What's our role? On our watch, as we become leaders in the community, librarians, they're the 25% of the 100. What's our role in this world? And if we've lost confidence in the government, do we dare remain neutral? What do we do with our communities? You heard what ALA said from its originator. We're a place, are we a space? There's different meaning attached to that. Space, it can be a space. Plug in. Check that book out. Place. Political responsibility. Checking in with the issues of the day. Because you know what I know. In the Ocean County Library, that beautiful building downtown, we've had some overdoses. We had to have the police and our maintenance crew take the door off the bathroom. Republican, white brick, Ocean County. We don't have a heroin epidemic because we live in Ocean County. Nor do we have a gang problem because we live in Ocean County. And nor do we have a homeless problem because that happens on another exit on the Garden State Parkway. Are you with me? So what's our role when they're in the bathroom and they've OD'd?
Save their lives.
Oh. But if we are not in touch with what's going on in the world, if we have not opened up our minds, if we have not had the discussions, if we have not taken the courage to engage with the community when they ask for the use of our meeting room, to host a discussion between the police and the community, well, what does that look like? Let me check with, and that may well be true. There's proper protocol, don't get me wrong. I'm not espousing disrespect. We're going to talk about that. But what's our role? This is just not Deborah up here being a talking head. What's our role? We aspire to be the librarians. Whether in management, information science, teen librarian. Teen librarian. I open the book. See this young girl come and go. Think it's by accident I open the book while she's standing there and I'm just chatting with her. Flip to the back of the book. Why did I do that? I have no idea, but I did. And the note said, I want to kill myself. What responsibility do I have to do? It's just a person that comes in and out of the library. I don't know her. Is there responsibility there? I'm with you. Yes?
It comes down to basic humanity.
She said it comes down to basic humanity. So, there's a good end to that story. You want to know, don't you?
Yeah.
I went to my then branch manager. I showed her the note. Well, Deborah, what do we do? I'm looking for answers. I'm open to anything. What do you suggest? I said, I suggest that we call for help. I suggest that we open the book and look through the list. We have the information at our fingertips. How we apply that information for that individual is a little different than I need info on my research paper. Or let's confirm that citation. I'm provoking us to think, I'm asking us to think about this notion in the world that we live in, that we all agree, as my little guy says, going kaflooey. Not my little guy from my room, but one of my little people. It's going kaflooey. And guess what? I found out in the statistics that I read, Pew Research, Harvard Business Review. Guess what institution is seen to be fair, respectful, safe, inclusive, open to the community? Take a guess.
The library?
The library. The public library. So the community says, you're trustworthy. You're honorable. You're a safe space. But we're neutral. What I know about the history of librarians is that we are quite intrepid, quite stealthy, right? On how we navigate these things while we're dealing with the policies of the day. And ALA, once again, yay, has supported us in how we get this work done. People are talking. Listen, can you hear it? In the grocery store when you're standing in line. So why were they taking me? Well, you know what? I think that it's just not American. That's what I heard. So I kind of step back a little. And I decide, do I engage or don't I? I'm at the grocery store. The conversations are going on. In the pub, in the bar, in the salon. We're having the conversations. Blacks with blacks, whites with whites. The gays with the gays. Transgender with transgender. We're having the conversations. And we live in the community. So let's pick an issue. The people that are smarter than we, the professionals, the psychologists, the politicians, not downing them because we all have our role, hear me clearly, say, what does this look like? Let's think it through. If you are caught, the law says, with drugs or selling, what happens? You go to jail. That's the law. Or you go to prison. But the community says there's a disparity there. Because depending upon what community, this is what I hear. This is what the people are talking about. But where can they come together to talk together, to come to resolution so we can build our community? Is it the role of the public library to be a catalyst, to be a partner, to be a leader, to be a supporter, to be a place of engagement, of facilitation for these issues in the community? Because I'm probably not going to talk to Barbara about taking a name. Because Barbara might say something that flips my switch. And I might forget my humanity. And I might use some phrases that causes Barbara to retreat. Because she's white and I'm black. Fast forward, real story. Close friend, Caucasian. She says, Deb, I'm really concerned. I'm concerned about my husband. I thought, oh, is he ill? What's going on? Is it the marriage? These are wonderful people. Well, he's in that percentile that I just read about. What percentile have you read about? White males. White males that are being discriminated against. White males. Oh, see, we got reaction on that in the room. Digital people online. Shaking of the head, rolling of the eyes. But hang with me. She says there's a group of people touting for them. There's a group of people saying, come on over. We got you. We understand you. We'll support you. Who's that group? Come on, tell us, don't whisper. Yes, you're warm.
White men. ACLU.
Ah, we're hot. The Ku Klux Klan. Oh, the fringe group. Because, see, we're not listening in mixed culture to a concern that they have. The way they see that they are experiencing society now. There's no safe place from my view. It's open season on white males. Bash away. Is that not as challenging as driving while black as a college student? Oh, let's ask the black male. Bobby, come forward. That's my brother. Professional businessman. Looks the part, smells the part, talks the part. Pulled over by the officer. How'd you come by this car? One of our veterans have gone to war, has led men and women into war. Decorated soldier has to make a decision whether or not he's going to help this gentleman in blue, educate him, or go home to his family in one piece. So how is that different from this Caucasian gentleman that says, I'm not being heard. It's open season on me. And I'm afraid. Nancy's looking like, what? True story. The voice. You wanted to know about the voice? That's the voice. It's the voice of what's going on in our society. It's the voice of what's going on in our communities. And the voice says, hear me, understand me. Where do we do that? How do we do that? Because as Marie talked about, I thought she was going to like, don't say that, Marie, get off my subject. Polarization. We're uncomfortable. We yell, we point, we blame, we accuse, we demonize. We call names because that says retreat, go back to your corner. Right? Go back. Because if we dare, like I'm about to dare to get out of this camera's view, to come into your world, I might get to know you, Dee. I might get to know you as flesh and blood, with a heart, with the same concern as me. I might come to the white mama whose son died of opiates, the same as the black mama's son died of the opiates. We might dare to really come to understand that we all have the same problem. But this is where the tensions rise. The tensions rise because when that white mama and the black mama come to the table, they come and their child is dead. But they come and the black mama says, I can't feel your pain. I can't feel your pain. Because when it was happening in my neighborhood, there was no Narcan. See, that happens in Camden. That happens in Newark. Doesn't happen in Ocean County. That's what the politician told us, didn't they, Barbara? She's from Ocean County, too. And when it started happening to Biff And Kip, are you with me?
Yeah.
We got the Narcan on our hip. We're taking the classes. See, that's what happens. There's tension around the shared experiences. So how do we navigate the same issue, but have different experiences, different realities? And if not at the public library, if not by courageous librarians and engaged and educated staff, where? Because if I retreat to my safe place and I say, Barbara, he sounded like a fool. Talking to Black Barbara. I'll never know that the white Barbara feels the same way. Our shared experiences might be a little different, but we're talking about the same issue. We can name the problems, ladies and gentlemen, and potential leaders and contributors of a change in the world just by being a librarian. But do we dare to go there? Do we dare to educate ourselves and understand that our experience and our reality is not the only experience and reality around the same issue? I met Marie. First meeting, we connected. And it was around the word civility. And she'll bear witness to this. When she offered that word, I wasn't like Rambo. Even though it sent me to a certain space. We start with the end in mind. Humanity. Humanity. Opinion. Opinion. I've got data she needs. An intelligent person says, I want to share my data with you. So I must put my data out there in a way that you can receive it. Now the choice is still going to be yours. Whether you, come on Barbara, connect, or you don't. But I gotta put it out there in a way that makes it palatable. Even though the tension hit me. And I do believe I showed up in a responsible way. And I asked her to rethink that. I don't remember the exact words. But I spoke about the history and the origin and who defines civil. Is that to stop the discussion? You know, people in power define. They get to define. Notice it said people in power, because everyone in this room is in power at some point in time. And that's what we don't want to believe in some of our communities, because we feel good when we're coming to the rescue. Think about it. But when we look at one another, north, south, black, white, as co-producers in the answers to the problem, I now am in a space of, let me listen to my white girlfriend. Tell me about her experience in reality regarding her husband, who is also my friend. My belly was churning because I was thinking, what? Have you lost your mind? The last time I checked, you were in power. Governmentally, economically, ... But if I didn't dare stay in the posture of tell me more, you've got information I don't have. Fast forward. Assertive communication. What time we got?
10 more minutes.
Community. Let's define community. Many definitions, very scholarly definitions, but for our time here today, community The places where people live, work, raise their families, and deal with everyday joys and challenges are at the center of the political world. People just like you and I. Different socioeconomics, different races, religions, philosophies, values, beliefs, but have the same thing in common. We care about what happens in our world. We care about what happens in our community as it pertains to we, me, myself, and mine. Just like Ross is concerned about we, me, myself, and mine. Common ground. Assertive communication. You know what it is. Intuitively, you know what it is. It is the ability to honestly express your opinions, feelings, attitudes, and your rights in a way that respects the rights of others. What a notion. The ability to convey your opinion, your experience, your thoughts, your beliefs, but also understanding that Nancy has thoughts, rights, beliefs, experiences. Wow, what a notion. Assertive listening. Elements include what? Communication. What does it include? Open book test. Listening. And listening doesn't mean sound. This is one of the least taught subjects everywhere. Listening. Sound. Grinder. The word grinder. Grinder. What does it mean to you, young man, handsome young man in the white? Grinder. You hear the word, what is it? Definition, define it.
Okay.
You won't fail, I promise you.
A grinder?
Mm-hmm.
Like someone who like hustles or pushes.
Grinder, Nancy.
Somebody who grinds things up.
Grinder.
It's a sandwich.
What is it, Dee?
It's a sandwich.
Another name for that grinder.
Hoagie.
Hoagie! Huh? Who? Hero. Sub. We went from one word. I'm talking about listening. We went from one word that we all believe we have common, mutual understanding around. We can take nothing for granted when we come into the public space, especially across culture, race, and ethnicity. But dare I say that whites to whites are unique? Is that true? But when we talk across culture, across the issues of our day, we have to confirm meaning, shared meaning, mutual understanding around the words we use. Are we using explosive terms like civility? Because we've always used it. For some people, that's explosive. Boundaries in assertive communication. Boundaries, understanding that you have a reality. In polite society, I'm about to break a rule for a minute. Can I break it for a minute? Too close? Too close. Nancy, too close?
No.
Too close?
I'm getting there.
I took one step because there's unwritten laws in polite society. There are boundaries in our cultures. There are boundaries for women, and guess what? Since we're women, or we identify as women, we understand where those boundaries are. Now, when the men, or those that identify as men, step into that space, they're not sure. You got to be conscious that you're hitting somebody else's boundary. And just that one little step that was right here may make someone uncomfortable. Are we conscious of that when we're in our conversations? That there are boundaries, and they're unwritten. They're understood in community. And if you're not in community, you may not know about them. So there's some things you don't know, white Americans. You can't read it in a book. Black Americans. I'm an equal opportunist. Boundaries. Authentic. Yes. Come on.
Like it's not fabricated, it's like real.
Yes.
Official.
Yes. When you come to the table, be yourself. I like that. Don't fabricate. Respect. What's it look like? We all know when we've been dissed. Is that still a word? I'm over 50, y'all. We all know. What's respect wear? What's it look like? It's fashionable. What's respect wearing when she walks in? Come on, tell me. She's striking a pose. What's she wearing? Respect. We talked about Grindr. If we don't know it, we won't know it when it shows up. We won't know it when we're extending it to other people.
It's like respect is the outcome of listening, boundaries, and respecting boundaries and understanding and being authentic. That's what I look at.
Thank you. Come on.
Respect is considering the other person's feelings and thoughts and what they're thinking, as well as your own.
Anyone else?
It's about dignity.
Oh, everything everyone said, right on, when it resonates with me. Dignity. Tell us more about that. Don't lose your thought. Nancy, tell us about dignity.
It's that each one of us deserves to be dignified and to have our own human dignity. And that's how we need to treat each other.
Any add-on? Did we get that? Go for it. Laura.
Stopping to consider boundaries that you may not be aware of.
We got to clap on that one, Laura. It's all of that.
It's like when you're a person instead of just people.
Ooh, say it again.
It's like when you're a person instead of just people.
And what does that look like? Give us an example of that. Let's picture that. If you can.
It's like I almost care about what you think as much as I care about what I think.
Yeah.
That kind of goes back to what I was going to chime in about. I think it also has to do with empathy and being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. You know, try to at least try to understand where they're coming from.
Even if we don't agree.
I think also sometimes it's that courage. Is it?
Courage to speak into a microphone. It's that courage to let go of your fear sometimes. Yeah, you know, because that's hard. Because sometimes you do have the fear, you don't know what the boundary is, but you don't want to ask either.
And how do we do that then? How do we do that? These are just a few elements. Another element is honesty. It's being vulnerable. It's daring to be honest and be vulnerable. Listen, I don't know all about the subject, but I would love to have a conversation with you about the Me Too movement. Tell me, what is that about? That person is risking by telling you, I don't know, and I really want to know.
I was going to say, I also just think it's a willingness to say that you're not right, or you didn't think about it that way, or just acknowledge that, there can be other ways of thinking about things.
Okay, so we're wrapping up.
We're ready to go to Q&A.
Ooh, okay, let's go into Q&A.
All right, so we also have a few questions from our very large online audience, by the way. Who's got the first question? Please tell us your name.
Gonna sit down, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm Sherry Glover, and I'm wondering the conversation that you have with your friend, the husband. I understand the listening part and the wanting to learn and from their information, but what are the later steps?
Good for you. Good question. I left you hanging. Part of what I just said to you. It's powerful just to use someone's name. There's a connection there. These are things you know already. I used her name, and I leaned in, and I managed my voice, and I was authentic. And I said Sherry, not her name. I'm challenged right now. Because what I hear you saying is this. I love Harry, not his name. But what I hear you saying, that as a white male, he still has a choice to be disrespectful with the KKK. And I'm nicing it up, even though I didn't use pejoratives. Or become part of the solution and use his voice. And the conversation continued. So what I hear you saying again, Sherry, is that I need to make him feel safe. That's what you're asking me to do. You're asking me to make the one in the culture that is most safe feel safer. Do you understand? That's how that's landing on me. And then she offered more, because I had to recognize I was caught. I was hooked. I was hooked. Because I'm ready to get into debate and come out of dialogue. And that's where we lose it. Because the debate says right, wrong, we wrestle. I'm not about mutual understanding. I really don't want to feel your pain because you're not feeling mine. I'm not acknowledged. I have a problem with that. Now, I didn't say all that, but that's what's in here. That's what you're talking about, right? But I start with the end in mind. I need to hear what she's telling me. I need to hear from that community member that I do not have a window into experientially her reality. I have to take that into myself. I have to allow that to settle on me. And when I set back, breathe. Breathe.
Okay, so I have a question. When you talk,
Did I answer your question?
Yes. My name's Greg. Going back to you saying making the one in the community feel safe already, are you saying just as males or like as Caucasian males or black males? Because when we talk about boundaries and everything in the Me Too movement, you could say that goes for in general males in general, or you could be more specific. Can you further that along?
If I'm understanding what you're saying, and you'll correct me if I don't.
Because I'll just add on. Because like a lot of the things, like if you go with the whole Bill Cosby movement, a lot of people like to take the side because he belongs to one culture, and at the same time he does have power. He's also a male. At that time he has.
It's called the pack and stack.
Yes.
All right, pack and stack. And there's certain things that trump certain things. So in that reality, Bill Cosby, even though we're black, he and I are black, he's a male. So in culture, systemically, he trumps me, right? So if I'm understanding your question, what I'm talking about applies across the board. If we are going to develop and grow community and use our unique voice, we have to sit in a posture that says, tell me your story. I don't know Bill Cosby's story, right? But I can listen to his story. I know Deborah. I know where she's hookable. I have to manage myself when I come to that community table. I come knowing some things already about Deborah. But I don't know Bill's story. Did I answer it? Did I understand it?
Okay, we have a question from our online audience. Just a second. Mahogany writes, question, I was volunteering at my public library when a man said since I was a volunteer I could spare the time to talk to him about materials on audio sex between dolphins. He talked more about having sex with sounds and then wanted to apply that to humans. I listened and tried to engage. It felt like I needed guidance. Do I just keep listening?
No, you don't. You say, sir, I'm uncomfortable with this conversation. And I'm ending this conversation.
Good advice.
That's about boundary, right? That's about boundary. And her or his dignity.
This is sort of a color, a continuation of that, but just in general, what happens when you kind of sense that the other person isn't willing to listen, when you're coming at it and they're coming at it as a debate?
Okay, so you say to them, I love this question. It would appear that you and I are at an impasse. So we're going to have to agree to disagree with this. I thank you for your thoughts. Because you're not there to change minds. You're there to exchange reality. In deliberation, if we're really talking about it, we've got an expert in the room, Nancy. You're there to step into their world. You're not there, see, that's what debate does. You win, I lose. You win, I lose. No. In dialogue, the goal is the win-win. What can you live with? What can I live with? We give a full vetting of the issue. I would not be able to stay in dialogue with a white supremacist. There would be other work that would need to happen, and we have to know the difference. Yes, Nancy?
I'm deferring to you on this one.
Okay. Yeah. There will be other work that would have, because I'm not going to win that ideologically. And that's where we go. That's where we get into polarization. When we get into ideology, rather than staying in mutuality and learning, listening. Am I understanding you to mean this? Give me an example of that. When I hear you say this, it lands on me this way. I feel, I think. My experience is no one can disagree with your experience.
Okay, we've got 2 more questions. I'm going to read one online question and one from Virginia. Casey asks, what do we do if our own coworkers at the library aren't listening? How can I help my community if the library staff isn't even on the same team as far as listening goes?
This is really powerful in that we have that everywhere. This is not a perfect science. You say, Casey, you continue talking to those that will hear, for those that will listen, and you gain traction around that. And you continue to model and live out the truth that you are espousing. That there's power in action.
Oh, and
that's
maybe
the answer.
I had a comment that kind of went in and out and out.
That's okay.
Good listening requires you to be present.
Attentive.
And therefore, we listen half-heartedly most of the time. But you have to, in order to hear what the other person is saying, you have to show up with everything that's within you to hear what they're saying.
And to her point, that is exhausting. When you are in the mode of really listening, Try listening across culture. If you're really listening with someone's English, using our primary language here, that is not English as their second language, the work of engaging, but guess what? I just stepped into their reality. Try that shoe on. That's what they're experiencing. And that is what listening is about. Establish mutuality, establishing grinder. How are you defining that? What's the impact of that upon you? Yes, Ms.
No, we're about ready to wrap it up, Deborah, so do you have any final remarks you'd like to make? And then we're going to have Dr. Ross take us out with closing remarks.
I am looking forward to where your journey takes you. And I say, be courageous. Dare to be courageous.
Hello everyone, our online students, welcome. I'm Ross Todd, I'm Chair of the Department of Library and Information Science. And I just want to say, Deborah, what a joy to have you here tonight. Because I want to just close very briefly where you just finished. You said, I'm looking forward to where your journey will go. And what I want to say with such grateful thanks for not just the intellectual stimulation, but the whole effect of stimulation that you provided. You've actually taken us on a journey tonight. And I really want to thank you for that. It's just been a joy to have you here. In my closing remarks, the word that sits on the top of my head, and what I think the core message of what you are bringing to us tonight, is this notion of daring leadership. That's what it's all about, and that's my enormous takeaway, that you provided so many multiple dimensions of daring leadership, but not only just the broader conception, you provided some really meaningful strategies for moving ahead. Thank you very much. I'm in awe of what you've done.
Thank you.
And we're just privileged to have you here to bring this to a point. Daring leadership. I thought the notion you made of not retreating to our safe and neutral spaces. This question of neutrality, I'm so pleased you raised it. We can't retreat to our safe and neutral spaces, because if we do retreat, it means as library and information professionals, we cannot engage in being what I saw as the real purpose of your conversation with us and the central notion of community. If we retreat to our neutral spaces, we cannot be co-producers of answers to our social problems. And to me, there is librarianship. There is your education. And I hope that here at Rutgers we're making a contribution to this, to be co-producers of answers to our social problems. Doesn't mean that we can ride the crest of the wave of the social and the political forces. We have to plunge deep. And this notion of daring to understand, I just thought that was such a beautiful notion that you developed. Daring to understand and to exchange realities. It's not just listening to one another's realities, it's exchanging, which is both, to me, a mental and a cultural and an emotional and a social dynamic. So daring to understand, daring to create meaning, that's the way that each of us become co-producers to our social problems. Thank you very much for living the example of daring leadership, because you dared to challenge mainstream voices. You dared to challenge mainstream concepts. You dared and challenged us to work together to create that shared meaning. And there's just something that I think in two remarks. At one point you said, go at it. And at another point you said, get it done.
Thank you, everybody. Let's give Deborah another round of applause. Thank you so very much. It's fearless and wonderful and inspiring, and makes me feel like I should be a little bit more assertive. So I am an assertive person, but you know, in the public square, I find myself not being that way, and I'm not sure why. So anyway, thank you all for coming to our online audience. You were great. Thank you for sticking in us while we got through our technical challenges. We had a pretty large online audience, by the way. So thanks again to my Colloquium students. You know what you have to do, which means post your reflection in a week. And you will, I'll share some of these reflections with you because they're going to be beautiful. Our next colloquium is November 29th, and our topic is, we're going to take a deep dive into the technical side of the world. We're going to be looking at automated classification, how to train your automated classification model, the perils and the promise and perils of information organization and the ethical use of information. When we have, again, algorithms that are doing our classification. So that will be November 29th. With that, I'd like to say goodnight. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.